Hello, and welcome to another episode of Leadership Table Talk, a show designed to help you develop and improve your leadership and management skills and talents. I'm your host, Dr. Mary Gillam, a retired Air Force colonel and former member of the Senior Executive Service Corps with the Department of Defense at the Pentagon. I am so excited about today's show entitled Globalization and Leadership, a View from South Africa. Having recently returned from a global business leadership residency program in Cape Town, South Africa, my colleagues and I from Georgetown University would love to share our insights with you today. With me in the studio today are three fellow Georgetown University graduate students. I have to my far right Ms. Renee Thompson, and I have Ms. Muftiat Fahm and Mr. Jonathan Lucus.
Hi.
Everyone, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And oh, by the way, it's actually Renee Thompson, okay? So guys, let's tell everybody about yourselves. Let's just begin by telling our audience a little about yourselves. Renee, why don't we start with you?
Okay. Well, I've been in security management for several years now, and the reason I wanted to go to the program at Georgetown was mainly because I see more and more global leadership opportunities out there and global leadership teaming. And I think it's very important to learn a lot of the skills that you need as a leader, as a global leader, which is different from being a leader in an organization that does not have as much diversity or isn't dealing with different cultures. So I think that's probably the main reason that I wanted to go to this program.
Great, thank you.
Yes. I originally from Nigeria, and I moved to the United States about 25 years ago. And I work at Georgetown University. I'm a staff there, and knowing fully well that Georgetown offers one of the best programs, whichever way you look at it. The Executive Master's Leadership really intrigued me because my background is accounting, and I believe as we're going through the years, we're getting interdisciplinary, and so that is why I thought it would be good to know more about leadership and get to know what it takes to be a leader.
Great. Jonathan?
Yeah, I currently am the business developer at the ARC of the United States. We're the 8th largest organization in the country, nonprofit organization, and we serve people with intellectual and developmental disabilities.
Yes.
The reason why I went to Georgetown and joined the EML program was to learn skills both in the business sector, but also understand what needs to be done as far as leadership, where you cross between nonprofit and for-profit come together to serve the community.
Now, Jonathan, I know in reading your background, you've done a lot with the UN, and so if we could just talk a little bit about that before we get into specifics of our topic today. I really wanted for people to hear that because of what is going on in your background, especially from a global leadership perspective.
Certainly. I've spent 10 years helping the federal government resettle refugees from around the world, and also providing consultative services to the United Nations and to countries across Europe. And that's very important to me. It's very important, I think, in the global context of the world we live in today, that this country has been founded on immigrant populations, and this country goes out into the world and does a lot of great things and receives a lot from the world. So it's important that we work together both with other countries and with those international bodies such as the United Nations to make an impact positively to those who need our support the most.
Great. So let's transition and talk a little bit more about global leadership. Renee, what is global leadership?
Well, I guess as I was saying before, you're leading in a more diverse culture, and also it's like, for instance, teams who work here in the United States might be working with someone that's over in India, Japan, South Africa, for example, and learning how to do the process of communication with those teams in all the different backgrounds that they bring is that's kind of what global leadership is. You have to be able to lead your team and in a way that is best for all the different cultures involved.
Great. So, Muftiat, since Renee talked about cultures, being from Nigeria, can you talk about why it is important that people understand different cultures and customs and things like that when they're trying to do any kind of business leadership?
Sure. So we all recognize that the world has become boundless in terms of boundaries. Most countries don't have any boundaries. And thanks to the internet, everyone is now a global citizen, whether they want it or not. And cultures have come in through immigration, through the internet, through whichever means, that to the extent that we are all experiencing different cultures wherever we are right now. Whether you're in the United States or in Nigeria for that matter, you are experiencing a different culture because people have migrated, people are getting on the internet, the influence is there. So coming from Nigeria, coming to the United States, of course, it's a different culture, but it's made me appreciate more about knowing what the other culture is so that I can work with them and become assimilated in that culture where I find myself. So it's all about context and where you are doing business. Just to take it, that is what you have to define the context. And all over the world, you have different cultures being meshed and created in different ways.
Absolutely. Now, before we all went to Cape Town, South Africa, we did this tool, the Global Smart 5 Profile Tool. What did you guys gain from that? And you have been able to kind of use that in your planning and so forth. Jonathan, what did you gain?
That's a great question. So I thought before taking that tool that I was a global citizen, you know, and I lived in Russia, I lived in Zimbabwe, my wife is from China, so I thought, you know, I understand culture. But what I gained from that tool was understanding myself and my own culture and my own biases. And that really was a great context to understand going into our trip to South Africa, understanding where the similarities may be between the two cultures and where the differences are, and exactly what my biases are going into that situation.
Great. Now, we all participated in that Metro cash and carry example, and I think we had just did the tool right before that. So, Renee, what were some of the experiences that you gained out of that because you had done the tool that we all used?
Well, basically the tool, what it does is it gives you an idea of what your personality is, what kind of behaviors that you have as a leader, and then it matches you with whatever it is that you're measuring against. So, like for us, for the South Africa trip, we put together what the behaviors are, you know, pretty much common, I guess, commonalities of behaviors within business people in South Africa, and match that up with our types that we showed up as, and it was very interesting. I know for me, I had to decide that I was going to have to hold back a little bit because I tend to want to dive right in and get in there and just start working, and they want to take some time, get to know you, build up trust a little bit, and then start working with you. So that's what I think I learned the most from that.
Oh, that is wonderful. I know. Before we actually dive into talking about South Africa, I just wanted to kind of go over some of the things that we have been doing in class to help prep us for that particular trip. And I know that when we did that Metro cash and carry example, and I think we had to work with I forgot the country right now, but one of the things that I learned out of that was that you know, there are certain countries you have to really respect the way they do business and at the speed at which they do business, something that you mentioned earlier, Muftiat, because I know when I was still in the military, some places over in Europe, you know, they were not operating on the same fast speed, getting there, but they really wanted you to build time, getting to know them, and all of that kind of stuff. And so I think that is really important from a global leadership perspective, that we recognize, again, the cultures of the countries that we're going into, so that we don't go in there and create a international incident or something like that. Okay, guys. Well, as we continue on in the program, let's just now talk a little bit about our individual engagements that we when we went to Cape Town, we were all assigned to different teams. And so let's just begin with you, Jonathan, and talk about your experience.
Yeah, so my team was tasked with working with the first both black and woman-owned business, winery business in South Africa. And our role was to help her develop a marketing and a business plan for her company, and also help open doors both in the continent of Africa and in the United States into stores where she can sell her products. And it was a great experience for us all. And just as Renee said, it was like pull back a little bit and listen, because I was gun-ho, we were all gun-ho. And being able to understand the culture of getting the buy-in before we move forward was very important for us.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Mufti?
Yes, of course.
Yours.
And knowing that we're going into a world, there are three things I've recognized that you have to absolutely understand in terms of global leadership: race, culture. Those two come into play whether we want it or not, and also religion. Those three dynamics work together anywhere in the world that we go. So the topic for our group was Muslim-Christian dialogue, which is something that is going on around the world now. And what we went in there to was to teach the teachers and students of the school to dialogue about something that they really find difficult, which religion is. Religion is very personal to people, so the moment you mention religion, you can feel the tense atmosphere go up. So it was truly a challenge to go in there knowing that race is also a factor in South Africa, but it's all about how you approach and bring about everybody collaborating and seeing each other as humans first before any other way of dissecting who they are. So we went with the Muslim-Christian one. It was very interesting. It's amazing how children actually see themselves in the context of the world, and how adults who have already formed their opinion come out with all this bias, whether they like it or not. And so it was really, really an eye-opener, but we went away teaching them how to talk about any difficult topic.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you for that feedback. Now, it looks like we've come up on our first break, so please stay tuned, and we will follow up with this conversation when we return.
Teens today take on leadership roles on the court, in the classroom, and in the community. Leadership Fairfax is looking for rising high school juniors and seniors who want to take their skills to the next level. Since 1987, Leadership Fairfax has inspired, engaged, developed, and connected with more than 1,600 leaders at all stages of their careers. This summer, learn leadership skills for college and beyond from Fairfax County's best and brightest. Begin your journey today by visiting leadershipfairfax.org.
Welcome back to Leadership Table Talk. Our guests today are graduate students at the Georgetown University McDonough School of Business. And before we went to break, we were talking about the experiences that our students had when they went to Cape Town, South Africa. So we're going to continue with that. And so, Renee, just tell us about your experience.
Well, my activity there was to do a consulting project for the Raymond Ackerman Academy. And the reason that we were doing this project, this workshop over there for them, is because a man named Raymond Ackerman started this school for young, aspiring entrepreneurs in South Africa. And as you know, right now, South Africa's economy is not so great. They estimate also that half of 53 million people that live in South Africa actually live in townships. And so what is needed in those townships is all kinds of basic businesses. So these young entrepreneurs come to Raymond Ackerman Academy, and they learn for 6 months a lot of skills, and even really, truly graduate level skills within that 6 months on how to run a business. And so what we did is we went in and we did a workshop for them. We started out by getting to know them. And we did that because that way we could sort of be very flexible and change up what we were doing based on their needs and what they were going to need, the kind of businesses that they were wanting to start up. It was so awesome to see how much hope they have and how much that they are working there, not for just power and wealth, but because they want to do something to take back to the township and help their family and be better people for the entire country, not just themselves. And I think that it was a great experience. We learned as much as they did. I think that day that we did the workshop for them.
Oh, that is awesome. I know we all got a chance to visit the academy, and one of the young ladies that was speaking, I could see that young lady becoming the president of South Africa.
Yeah.
She was so intelligent. So since we're talking about the Ackerman Academy, what did you other guys, what did y'all think about that visit to the academy?
It was impressive. The young entrepreneurial spirit that's alive and well in Cape Town and probably throughout the entire country was impressive to me. These young people want to succeed, they want to make a difference, they want to help their families, and I took away, gosh, there's a lot of smart young people who were just ready for the opportunity.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and like Jonathan said, you are exposed to such young, innovative kids who just need the opportunity to get what they want done. And that's what we're living with now. A lot of people, a lot of countries are young entrepreneurs who are ready to go if only they get the help they need to get there. That's pretty much what I got.
That is what. Now, I wanted to just follow up with another question that I had from an earlier conversation with some people, and that is, can we be influenced by unconscious biases?
Great question. I'm running the clock out here. No, I think definitely. I think it happens all the time. We're talking about the political situation in our country that's right now going on, or how we take those biases with us when we travel the world. They're there, and they've been put there for long periods of time, and I think it affects probably every facet of society.
So we just have to be aware of that as we are visiting in other places and so forth, that those kind of things can be triggers in our decision making and so forth. Okay, guys, let me ask, what aspects of your leadership may have changed because you went to South Africa? Start, Renee.
What has changed? Probably a lot of things, because the way that you look at like what I was talking about before, the hope that the kids have at such a young age to do these things that are not for themselves, that are to help their communities. And as a leader, I mean, what better thing can you do, really, than to help, your family, your community, and your country as a whole. And so I think that thinking in that context is probably, I will be doing that a lot more in the future than what I had done in the past.
Good.
So for me, it brought the realization that leadership is boundless. And you really can be a leader in so many contexts. And coming back from South Africa, it really opened up my mind as to, I don't have to limit myself to where I live at to make any leadership change. I really can think and go forward and look around the world and see what's going on, to really take that leadership concept and think of ways to help others to become leaders. And that pretty much was what the awakening moment was for me going to South Africa.
Good. Jonathan?
I think the biggest lesson for me was the understanding that with leadership comes hope.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there with a lot of great skill sets. We don't need to teach people necessarily how to do things. We have to believe in them.
Yes.
And when you transfer that, and that's an international language.
Absolutely.
And when you're either in Cape Town or you're here in DC, when you are a leader, you're inspiring other people to go out and make a difference and to believe in themselves. And that's that was something I learned that I keep with me from now on.
Oh, that is wonderful. Let me ask you guys something. I know Zig Ziglar once said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. What do you guys think about that? Renee?
Absolutely. I mean, really, if you don't care about your people and your surroundings and the bigger picture of the environment that you're in, then how effective are you going to be in the end? You know, you're really not going to be very effective. You might accomplish your task or your goal, but you know, what have you really accomplished?
Right. And I know when our group, we dealt with Medente, which was a research and consulting firm, and the thing that I really liked about working with the Heidi and her team was that they were so open to receive, you know, the assistance that we provided. And because, you know, in my particular case, having written a couple of books, they wanted to understand how they could get their message out more and better. And so I actually kind of guided them through writing, you know, how you do your books and all that kind of stuff. And we actually did an interview with Heidi because she had such a dynamic personality. And I said, oh, she would be great, you know, whatever social media platform they decide to use. And so we really, as a team, really bonded with that team over there. And so guys, let me ask you, what did you think about our visit to the Mandela Rhodes Foundation? What did you walk away from that thinking and, you know, that experience? Jonathan?
Oh gosh, it was inspiring.
Yes, absolutely.
From Mr. Johnson and his crusade to really change society to freedom of Nelson Mandela and his impact on that foundation. It's an amazing place, but even in Mandela's death, he's leading people, and those kids inspire to be him, and inspire to go out and do things in an ethical, just way.
Yes,
and that's very important.
Wonderful.
So it's one thing to read the book, it's another thing to be there and feel it. And that was what was the realization to me, that even though I've read about it, being there and having Don sit on Mandela's chair next to me, I'm very excited. But it truly brings to life what you have in your imagination, and it helps your imagination really grow, and it's a life-changing experience.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Well, I remember Sean Johnson talking about courageous conversations, and that's what it's all about there. It's all about people coming together and not being afraid to say whatever they want to say. And we have too few of that here, you know, in the United States, I know, and other countries too, where people are just afraid to say what they really should say. And in that environment that they've made at the Mandela Rhodes Foundation, it's a safe environment. They're allowed to say whatever they want. It doesn't mean they're going to walk away and anyone's going to, you know, just run with whatever that was, that idea. But they have the ability to say it right there. And they're from all over Africa, the scholars that go to Mandela Rhodes, and have a lot of different opinions, right?
What I really liked about what Nelson Mandela had espoused when he was, you know, getting that all going along with the Rhodes Foundation was this: as a leader, he knew of the injustices from the past. Yet when it came down to developing leaders, he did not say, well, we're just going to reserve it to this group or that group. But he was already looking beyond. I want to look beyond just South Africa, and I want to look at leaders across Africa. And that's what I thought was so amazing to what they were doing there. Guys, let me ask you, as principled leaders, what advice would you give any business today that would want to engage in business opportunities overseas? What should they remember? We have a couple of minutes here.
Start with me, I guess. I think, you know, again, understanding those unwritten biases, that to go into a country open-minded and open-hearted, and to learn about the people there that you want to be your customers, and understand their needs, and understand that how your business can also be an impact on the community and on society, and you can do that and still make the almighty dollar.
Oh, great.
Right.
Fantastic.
So following up on what Jonathan just mentioned, we need to start thinking that it's not all about the money. You need to care about the people who you're doing business with, because social business is really where you benefit most, not just about just making profit and getting the money out of those places. You have to be aware that there are people there who also want to go into business with you, but you have to respect them and understand them.
Respect.
Yeah, I mean, understand the culture, put the unconscious bias that you have aside, and realize they have them too. And so, you know, you have to come together and work in more of an inclusive thought way.
Absolutely, guys. Well, it looks like we've just run out of time for today, and I definitely would like to get you guys back. Would you like to do that? Come back on the show?
Certainly.
And again, I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come and be a part of the show today. And I want to thank you for watching our show, and I hope that you've gained some insights from our guests that will help you on your leadership and management journey. So again, this is Dr. Mary Gillam, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.